My phone buzzed 3 times in my pocket while I was kneeling on the concrete bay floor of Apex Precision Marine. I was holding a digital micrometer, measuring the tolerance on an 8,000-pound diesel engine block. In my line of work, if you miss a measurement by a fraction of a millimeter, the engine seizes 50 miles out at sea, and people die. I wiped my oil-stained hands on a shop rag, pulled out my phone, and answered. "Daniel Reyes," I said, leaning back against the steel hull. "Is this Daniel?" a woman's voice asked. She was completely calm, professional, and cold. "Your wife, Marissa, is in room 216 at the Harbor Crest Hotel right now. She isn't alone." Before I could even process the words, she added, "Check your text messages in 30 seconds, and hung up. 30 seconds later, a short video file popped up on my screen. My hands were shaking so hard, I almost dropped the phone against the iron floor. The video showed a sunny parking lot at 1:45 p.m., less than an hour ago. Marissa was walking toward the side door of a mid-tier hotel, wearing the bright yellow sundress I had bought her for our anniversary. Her hair was done up in a formal clip, her makeup fresh, and she was laughing. She was supposed to be 5 miles across town at her mother's house, helping her sort through old storage boxes. Then a man stepped into the frame, tall, muscular, wearing an expensive designer shirt and a gold watch. He reached out, pulled Marissa tight against his side, and slid his hand down onto her lower back. Marissa didn't flinch. She didn't push him away. She leaned into him with a natural, practiced ease, pulled a digital keycard out of her purse, and swiped the lock on room 216. As the indicator light flashed green, she looked up into his face and smiled, a soft, intimate look she hadn't given me in over 2 years. They stepped inside, and the door clicked shut. I replayed the video 3 times, staring at the screen in the dimly lit engine bay. The loud industrial noise of the boatyard, the clanking crane chains, the air compressors, the crew shouting over the hum of pressure washers, faded into complete silence. I didn't scream. I didn't smash my tools against the boat hull. I carefully set my micrometer back into its padded wooden case, zipped up my leather tool wrap, and walked up the steel gangway out of the hold. I walked straight into the yard manager's office. Rick looked up from his desk, taking one look at my pale face and static posture. "Daniel?" he asked, setting his pencil down. "What happened? You look like you just saw a fatal wreck." "I need emergency leave, Rick," I said. My voice was low, flat, and completely devoid of emotion. "Starting right now." Rick studied me for 3 long seconds, reading the absolute boundary in my eyes. "Is everything okay at home, Dan?" "No," I replied softly. "But it will be." I turned toward the exit. As my hand touched the door handle, Rick called out behind me, "Daniel, don't do anything stupid out there." I looked back over my shoulder, my face stone cold. "I'm not going to do anything stupid, Rick. I'm going to do something permanent." The drive from the boatyard to the hotel took 20 minutes. My hand stayed planted at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel of my work truck. No radio, no air conditioning. Just the steady hum of the tires against the blacktop. Loud men throw tantrums when they catch someone betraying them. They punch steering wheels, make threats, and cause embarrassing scenes in public lobbies. But loud anger gives the guilty person something to fight against. It lets them call you crazy and shift the blame. Silence gives them 0 traction. Before I pulled into the hotel driveway, I pulled over on the shoulder of the road and made 2 specific phone calls. The first call was to Arthur and Helen Holloway, Marissa's parents. Arthur was a retired naval shipyard foreman who had spent 40 years doing heavy physical labor. He was a simple, stoic man who lived by an unyielding rule. Your word is your bond, and family is built on absolute respect. Helen was a gentle, deeply traditional woman who hosted Sunday family dinners every single week and had treated me like her own son from the day Marissa introduced us at 19. When Helen answered the phone, her tone was warm and light. "Daniel, I thought you were at the docks today. Marissa said you were working overtime on a commercial hull." I let the sentence sit in the quiet air for 3 seconds. "Helen," I said softly, "is Marissa at your house right now?" "No, dear. She told me she was running errands for your shop. Why? Is everything all right? I took a slow, silent breath. Helen, I need you and Arthur to get into your car right now and drive to the Harbor Crest Hotel on Bayview Drive, room 216. Marissa is in trouble, and she needs her parents. Daniel, what are you talking about? Is she hurt? Panic instantly flooded her voice. Just come, Helen, please. Bring Arthur. Room 216. I hung up before she could ask another question. My phone buzzed twice over the next 10 minutes, 2 missed calls from Marissa. She was likely sitting on the edge of that hotel bed, realizing her mother had just texted her asking why I was calling about a hotel room. The panic was setting in on her end. The lies were colliding. I pulled into the hotel parking lot and parked in the shade where I had a clear line of sight to the main doors. 10 minutes later, a silver sedan pulled up to the entrance. Arthur and Helen got out. Arthur was wearing his heavy canvas trousers. Helen was clutching her handbag tight against her stomach, her face white with worry. They stood near the lobby doors, Arthur checking his phone, frantically trying to call me back. I waited. I gave them exactly 3 minutes to go inside, take the stairs to the second floor, and locate room 216. I wanted them standing at that door before I ever walked into the building. I stepped out of my truck, locked the cab, and walked calmly inside. The hotel interior was quiet, carpeted corridors, soft lighting, and the artificial smell of lemon spray. I took the stairs to the second floor, my work boots moving without a sound against the carpet runner. When I turned the corner into the second floor hallway, I saw them. Arthur and Helen were standing right outside room 216. Arthur had just raised his thick, calloused hand to knock on the panel. Before his knuckles hit the wood, the door swung open from the inside. Marissa was standing there, wearing a white hotel bathrobe, her hair damp around her shoulders, her makeup completely gone. Behind her, standing near the foot of an unmade king-sized bed, was a man hastily pulling a button-down shirt over his head. The hallway went dead silent. Helen gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Arthur froze, his arms still raised in the air, his eyes widening as he registered his daughter, the bathrobe, the unmade bed, and the half-dressed stranger in the room. Marissa's expression shifted from mild annoyance to total, pure horror in less than a second. Her eyes darted from her mother to her father and then past them to where I was standing 10 feet down the hall, my arms crossed, watching her in absolute silence. "Mom? Dad?" Marissa whispered, her face going completely white. What are you doing here?" For 5 long seconds, nobody moved. The air in the hallway felt freezing cold. "Marissa," Arthur said. His voice wasn't loud, but it dropped into a low, deadly register I had never heard him use in 15 years. "Who is that man?" Marissa looked frantically between her parents and me. Her lips parted, searching for a story, a cover, a lie, anything to erase the reality right in front of them. "Dad, listen to me," she stammered, taking a step forward and reaching for her mother's arm. It's not what it looks like. We were just talking. He's a client from my real estate office." "A client?" I said quietly, stepping up to stand directly beside Arthur. I didn't yell. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and played the video I had received 40 minutes earlier. I held the bright display right in front of Arthur and Helen. The high-definition video played silently. Marissa laughing in the parking lot, leaning her head against the man's shoulder, his hand sliding down her waist as she used her keycard to open the room. Helen covered her face with both hands and began to cry softly. Arthur's face turned a dark, furious red. He stepped right past his daughter into the hotel room. The man inside, a regional broker named Bryce, backed up against the wall, holding his hands up defensively. "Hey, look, man, let's be reasonable here," Bryce started, trying to sound calm and smooth. "This is just a big misunderstanding." Arthur didn't waste a single word. He grabbed Bryce by the front of his shirt, hauled him forward, and shoved him out into the carpeted hallway so hard Bryce almost lost his balance. "Get your clothes and get out of my sight before I forget how old I am," Arthur said, his voice trembling with fury. Bryce didn't argue. He grabbed his shoes and jacket, squeezed past us down the hall, and sprinted down the emergency stairwell without looking back once. Marissa dropped to her knees on the hotel floor, tears running down her face, reaching out to grab the bottom of my work pants. "Daniel, please," she sobbed, her voice echoing down the corridor. "I made a mistake. I was feeling lonely. You were working so many long hours at the boatyard. Please, Daniel, just talk to me. We can fix this. We can go to counseling." I looked down at her. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel the urge to scream or smash things. I felt completely empty. "I didn't work 80 hours a week at the docks because I liked getting covered in oil, Marissa," I said, my voice totally level. "I worked those hours to pay off our mortgage, so you would never have to worry about a monthly check. I spent my weekends building a back porch on your parents' house for free. I gave you 6 years of total loyalty, and you traded it for a hotel key on a Tuesday afternoon." I reached into my canvas work jacket and pulled out a plain white envelope. Inside were copies of our joint bank account statements, our property deeds, and a printed list of every financial asset I had brought into our marriage. I set the envelope down on the small table next to the hotel room door. "The locks on the house are being changed today," I said softly. "Your personal clothes will be packed in boxes on the porch by 5 OMI. Don't come to the shop and don't call my phone." "Daniel, no, please," she begged, clutching at my boots. I gently pulled my foot back out of her reach. "We're done, Marissa." I turned around and walked down the quiet hallway toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Arthur's voice, cold and final. "Get up off the floor, Marissa," Arthur told his daughter. "You've embarrassed this whole family. Don't come to our house tonight either." As the heavy door clicked shut behind me, the last thing I heard was the sound of my wife crying alone in the hallway. 3 days later, I learned the identity of the woman who had called me at the boatyard. Her name was Renee Carter. She knocked on the door of my small rental apartment at 7 in the evening, holding a thick black binder under her arm. "Daniel Reyes?" she asked. "Yes," I replied, recognizing her voice instantly. "You're the caller." "I am," she said. "Can I come in? You deserve to see the rest of this." I stepped aside and let her in. My apartment was nearly empty. I had taken only my personal clothes, my hand tools, and my truck when I left the house, leaving the rest for the divorce lawyers to split up. Renee sat down at my small kitchen table and opened her binder. Inside were dozens of printed pages. Bank receipts, hotel invoices, credit card records, and clear photos. "Bryce Carter is my husband," Renee explained, her tone completely matter-of-fact. "Or he was until yesterday. I've known he was cheating for 6 months, but I took my time. I didn't want a loud argument where he could lie his way out of it. I wanted proof that couldn't be denied." She slid a photo across the table. It showed Bryce and Marissa holding hands outside an upscale restaurant 3 weeks ago. "Why did you call me?" I asked, looking at the photo. "Why not just confront your husband? Because confronting a liar in private gives them a chance to make excuses and turn it back on you," Renee said, her eyes sharp and clear. "Exposing them in public forces them to face reality. I researched your wife, Daniel. I saw her social media posts about her perfect marriage. I knew that letting her parents see who she really was would hit harder than any private fight. And I called you because you deserved to stop paying for a woman who didn't respect you." "What happened to your husband?" I asked. Renee smiled slightly, a cold, satisfied look. "Bryce lost his job at the firm yesterday morning. Turns out one of his other affairs was with a senior partner's secretary. I sent the partner the receipts. I also froze our joint accounts and filed for full custody of our children. He's staying at a cheap motel across town with nothing left." She stood up, closing her binder. "I'm sorry you had to go through it, Daniel. but men who work hard and stay loyal don't deserve to be played for fools. After Renee left, I sat in the quiet room for a long time. There is a massive difference between revenge and justice. Revenge is emotional, fast, and messy. It leaves you feeling empty. Justice is calm, patient, and permanent. It simply puts things back where they belong. Over the next 6 months, my life settled into a clean, quiet routine. I stopped working endless overtime just to buy expensive things. I focused entirely on my craft. I picked up specialized marine restoration projects, rebuilding vintage wooden boat hulls and custom brass fittings for historical vessels. It was slow, careful work that required deep focus, but it brought me a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. Word about my situation spread through our small coastal community, but not because I complained. I never said a single bad word about Marissa to anyone. I didn't need to. Her own actions spoke for her. Without my income paying the mortgage and covering her credit card debts, Marissa had to sell our house at a loss. She moved into a tiny, run-down studio apartment near the industrial park and took a low-paying job as a receptionist. Her high society friends, the ones she used to brag to, stopped inviting her to dinners once the expensive lifestyle vanished. Her parents, Arthur and Helen, stayed true to their word. They refused to enable her behavior. They didn't hate her, but they held her accountable. 6 months after the hotel incident, I was at a local dock fixing an outboard engine for a neighbor when my phone rang. It was Arthur. "Daniel," the old man said, his voice warm. "Helen made a fresh pot of seafood stew tonight. There's a seat at the table for you if you're free." I paused, wiping a spot of grease off my arm. "I'd like that, Arthur. Thank you." "We'll see you at 6, son," he said, and hung up. Some ties are made of blood, but the strongest ties are built on respect. Marissa had lost her family because she traded respect for a temporary thrill. I had kept mine because I stood my ground in silence. A year after that Tuesday afternoon at the Harbor Crest Hotel, I was standing on the deck of a restored 1940s wooden schooner I had spent 6 months rebuilding. The morning sun was coming up over the harbor, painting the water in shades of gold and deep blue. The ship's engine, a rebuilt 4-cylinder diesel I had overhauled with my own hands, hummed with a smooth, perfect rhythm beneath the wooden deckboards. No rattles, no missed beats, just steady, reliable power. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text message from a blocked number. "Daniel, I know it's been a year. I'm so sorry for everything. I lost my job last week, and I don't know who else to turn to. Can we please just talk for 5 minutes? I miss my husband." I read the text twice. I didn't feel a spike of anger. I didn't feel a surge of satisfaction. I just felt a quiet, absolute certainty. I didn't type a reply. I didn't send an angry message telling her how much she had ruined her own life. I simply tapped the screen, selected delete and block, and placed the phone back in my pocket. Some doors, once you walk through them and lock them behind you, should never be opened again. When people hurt you, they expect you to scream. They expect you to chase them, demand explanations, or try to win them back. They think your anger means they still hold power over your life. When you give them total silence instead, you take that power back completely. You leave them alone in the quiet room they built with their own lies, forcing them to carry the weight of what they destroyed, without you there to help them hold it up. You don't need to get even. You don't need to post updates on the internet showing how well you're doing. You just need to keep your head down, do honest work, and build a life that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. Quiet men don't waste time arguing with people who don't respect them. They simply build things that last. If you've ever had to walk away in silence to rebuild your life from the ground up, welcome to the Quiet Files. Hit that subscribe button and stay one step ahead of the ones who underestimate you.